Good evening. The dice of destiny keeps on rolling in as far as the ouster of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. This is after Senate has already set the dates for its hearing on his impeachment debate, or rather the proceedings. Further on, what car are you driving if you're within the Mombasa region? All those details will be coming up in not too long on Prime Edition this Wednesday. First things first, the highlights.
The Senate will therefore proceed with the investigation of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua.
Gachagua's date with destiny. Senate begins the consideration of the DP's impeachment amid attempts to forestall his ouster.
More than 80% hawachukui zile kadi. Wakenya pale nje wanaumia.
The long walk from NHIF. Pressure mounts on the government to provide more clarity on the modalities of the Social Health Authority. And it is a matter of life and death. COMESA issues an alert over faulty airbags. Toyota, Nissan and Ford are among the 12 automakers affected by the recall.
Good evening, I'm Regina Manyara, and my colleague on sign language interpretation is none other than Lady Lucy Moura. Later on, we're going to be having a conversation, quite interesting to say the least, because we have been seeing mass exodus of healthcare workers seeking greener pastures in Europe, the United States and Middle East. Tonight, we're going to be discussing how you too can take advantage of this particular drive that is backed by the government as it seeks to increase diaspora remittance. But first things first, we start off with stories that have been making headlines in the last 12 hours. Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua will have yet another opportunity to defend himself against allegations raised in an impeachment motion at the Senate next week on Wednesday and Thursday. Speaker of the Senate, Amason Kingi, confirmed receiving the communication from the National Assembly, which voted to impeach the Deputy President Tuesday night.
The fate of the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua now lies in the Senate. Tuesday night, National Assembly, which had framed 11 grounds, impeached the DP with 281 MPs supporting the motion and only 44 against, with 1 abstaining. In less than 24 hours, the motion has been forwarded to the Senate for trial.
As this matter comes before you, I cannot underscore enough the immense public interest that this matter has elicited, and for good reason.
Special sittings have been lined up to investigate and determine the charges. A motion to have the charges heard by an 11-member committee was defeated.
That we elect 11 of our wisest and most trusted senators, Mr. Speaker, who we think have the sufficient wisdom to read on our behalf, make a decision. I want to invite the Senator for Nairobi, Senator Edwin Watenya Sifuna, to second this motion.
As you have indicated in your communication, indeed this is a matter that is extremely unique, that has elicited immense public attention, and therefore, Honourable Speaker, given the mood of the House and especially on the minority side, I respectfully decline to second that motion.
The House adopted the plenary ways setting 16th and 17th October to hear and determine the special motion.
This is yet another opportunity for the Senate to demonstrate its fidelity to the Constitution and to live up to its reputation. It is therefore behoves the Senate as the trial chamber to maintain integrity and impartiality in this administration of justice.
Both parties have been directed to file their responses with the Office of the Clerk of the Senate by Monday 14th October by 5 p.m. This is the first time the Senate presides over the impeachment over Deputy President. Kamchemenza for Prime Edition.
Still on the same, the High Court has consolidated over 20 petitions filed across the country seeking to stop the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Justice Lawrence Mugambi has said he will on Friday, the 11th of October, give a ruling on whether he will refer the case to the Chief Justice Martha Koome to constitute an uneven number of judges to hear and determine the matter as prayed by the petitioners. As Ruth Wamboi reports, petitioners told the court that the ouster of the Deputy President by the National Assembly does not reflect the will of the people.
The legal battle pitting hosted DP Rigathi Gachagua has kicked off in earnest at the High Court Wednesday with the consolidation of 22 petitions.
We are ready to proceed and get the directions.
DP's lead defense team led by senior counsel Paul Muiti and Elisha Ongoya put up a spirited fight urging Justice Lawrence Mugambi to consider the self-evident urgency of the matter and forward the file to Chief Justice Martha Koome to constitute a 3 to 7 judge bench.
Public participation in terms of the guidelines by the Supreme Court. I am deliberately not going into those guidelines at this stage. Just pointing out, my lord. We will be saying that the 12 days limitation is in head-on collision with Article 50 of our Constitution.
The court was also told that the case falls under a presidential system of governance and the sovereignty of the people in the process is key.
In determining whether or not a person elected through the universal suffrage can be subjected exclusively to the mercy of the National Assembly.
They also poked holes into how public participation was conducted, citing a lack of substantive legislation on the procedure and whether Parliament should play an active role. The respondents, through counsels Paul Nyamodi and Peter Wanyama, argued the narrative that the Deputy President is elected by the people lacks merit.
The issues that are alive in this matter in respect of public participation call upon you to do is to look at the public participation exercise and perhaps give different directions from Justice Momo. And I submit that it is this court it is the court and the administration of justice that would then be embarrassed if that were to take place.
Well, it would be humanly impossible for the respondents, my lord, to attend to these matters, as some, my lord, fall within the same days and time. That would be even in the interest, my lord, of justice, that then the respondents are now denied a fair trial by the mere multiplicity and duplicity, my lord, of causes of action.
The court was also urged to disregard the petitioner's call for empanelment of a bench, citing the matter can be heard by a single judge.
I see it in the context of a substantial question of law which has not matured. They are scratching it, but it is there. They are scratching it. It can only mature after the Senate has considered the motion that was approved by the National Assembly yesterday for the impeachment of Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Law Society of Kenya has also been enjoined in the case. The lawyers representing the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua have cited that they have very weighty issues that needs an empanelment of a bench, with the respondents citing that the issues raised by the petitioners are already functus officio. This now calls for the interpretation of the Constitution by the court. Ruth Wamboi reporting for Prime Edition from Milimani's High Court.
Kenyans continue to react to the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. While some are condemning the move, others are urging the Senate to finish what the National Assembly started. Meanwhile, ODM leaders have lauded President William Ruto and Raila Odinga's working relationship.
Mining and Blue Economy Cabinet Secretary Hassan Joho has lauded lawmakers from the Coast region for uniting to vote out the deputy president.
Nimeona jana wajumbe wa pwani walikuwa ngangari. Nimewasikia kule bunge mkinguruma. Mimi nafurahi kwamba mlishikana kama wote. For the first time, kura za pwani zilielekea mwelekeo mmoja 100%. So waambie kwa niaba yetu sisi tunasema asante. Asante for the unity. Asante for standing together. Whatever it is, ule uamuzi mlifanya, sisi tuko nyuma yenu.
Joho and Coast leaders asked President William Ruto to pick a new deputy president who will unite Kenyans.
Tunaomba rais asituletee Makanga tena, Makanga ambaye anafanya mambo ya ukabila. Makanga akiongea anaongea kuhusu village yake. Tunataka Makanga mwaminifu ambaye anajua watu wa nchi mzima. Si namna hiyo?
In Kiambu County, residents say the 11 grounds laid in the impeachment motion were not substantiated, while others backed his ouster from office.
Mahakama ndio tuko na haki naye, tuko na imani naye, kwa sababu mahakama itaangalia haki ya Gachagua, kwa sababu vile deputy president aliongea katika bunge ya kitaifa, aliongea na kajieleza, ndio kasikia kama wananchi tukaona kwamba hakuna haki ya kung'olewa mamlakani.
Yeye ndio kiongozi wetu wa Mount Kenya na anapigania taifa yote. Na kama ukweli ni kunena ya kwamba ati ananena ukweli wake ndio inamtoa kwa mamlaka, tutasimama na yeye na hata saidi ya yote tutamuombea Mungu.
However, residents of Mwingi Town in Kitui who spoke to Channel 1 held that Gachagua's impeachment was not a priority for Kenyans.
Hatukuwa tunapendelea hiyo. Sasa naomba Senate irutishe Gachagua kazini na wakae chini wakubaliane vile kuko na vile watafanyia wananchi wa Kenya kazi.
Seth Panyako on his side backed Gachagua's impeachment on allegations of starting ethnicity.
So the only thing that I want Gachagua to go home is tribalism. Gachagua cannot be the second in command, who is supposed to be the debut symbol of national unity. And every time he wakes up, he talks about Murima.
Now Kenya leader Martha Karua criticized members of the parliament, saying, and I quote, "The National Assembly has once again exhibited it cannot be our watchdog, nor does it represent the views and aspirations of the people they represent. It has become a rubber stamp of the executive." End of quote. Orange Democratic Movement leaders applauding the working relationship between President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga in the broad-based government.
Party will retain its identity, even in light of recent developments with the formation of the broad-based government. That tells me that the young people in this party know who they are, they know themselves, and they know their party.
Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
Away from matters impeachment of the deputy president, now to matters held, where the government has called upon employers to declare their employees under the Social Health Authority to make them eligible to benefit from the scheme. According to Principal Secretary to the State Department of Medical Services, Harambe Stars, employees not declared will not be able to access the services, even if they're self-registered.
Speaking during a training exercise for human resource professionals in public service, Principal Secretary in the State Department for Medical Services, Harambe Stars, disclosed that out of 15,588 employers, only 120,620 employees have been declared under the Social Health Authority.
So if the employer has not sent details of the employee confirming that they are paid up or they are members who normally they deduct 2.75% and shall be remitted to Social Health Authority, the system will definitely reject them. So it was causing pain on the employees themselves. It was a case of laxity. And they have acknowledged that indeed they were still waiting for a circular. We told them it was published in a dailies that everybody was to know. The private sector did very well. The private sector has already complied. It was surprising that they had not complied.
According to the PS, employees are also expected to confirm with their human resource that they are onboarded on the employer portal to ensure they are not denied services. Over a week since the country transitioned to the Social Health Authority, more than 12.7 million Kenyans have registered, with 1,442 healthcare providers contracted to offer services to registered members.
Those who have diagnosed with the cancer and The chemotherapy sessions recommended were 8. NHIF are paying half of that. And we've said under this Social Health Authority benefits, they will cover the entire 8 sessions. Is that an enhancement? Is that more than NHIF or is less than NHIF?
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
Well, that is underway. The Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, KUCO, want the Ministry of Health to institute proper public participation exercises on the Social Health Authority SHA rollout. Speaking in Nairobi, KUCO Chairman Peterson Wachira reiterated health workers stand that the health benefits package availed in the Social Health Insurance Fund does not match expectations arising from the amount that Kenyans are expected to contribute monthly. Here's Joseph Wahungu with the latest on the SHA rollout.
The implementation of the Social Health Authority SHA well in its second week, the rollout of the new health scheme continues to draw criticism amid its claims of patients failing to get medical care in health facilities. Healthcare Workers Union, among them the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, KUCO, is the latest to express their displeasure on the transition from the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF, to the current Social Health Insurance Fund, SHIF.
Mimi mwenyewe niko na relative ambaye ako admitted one of the mission hospitals na tumeambiwa hii SHA itumiki. Na najua kile ninachokisema. Mmeona kama yule mzee tuliona akilia amekosa dialysis services. Tunaposimama hapa hospitali more than 80% hawachukui zile kadi. Wakenya pale nje wanaumia.
On Wednesday, KUCO held a peaceful demonstration at Ministry of Health and SHA building in Nairobi, where they accused the Social Health Authority of locking out facilities accredited by the Clinical Officers Council from offering healthcare services under the new scheme. It also lamented most Kenyans could contribute huge sums of money with no guarantee of excellent medical services.
Na Wakenya wanauliza, hii pesa inachukuliwa nyingi, kama si ya kutupatia zile huduma inaenda wapi? Mumeona sijui tunaambiwa meno, familia mzima kwa mwaka unapewa 2,000. Sasa hii ni ya kuosha meno, ni ya kununua toothpaste ama ni ya kufanya nini?
Meanwhile, the Homa Bay County Public Health Workers Union has made a major breakthrough by signing a recognition agreement with the Homa Bay County government. The agreement is expected to play a crucial role in enhancing the working conditions and service delivery of public health officers across the country.
We are a government that prides itself in useful engagement with our workers, especially the unions, because these are labor issues that we don't want them to get to a point where they are dispute.
And what it means essentially that we are actually setting a pace for now a discussion on a recognition agreement with the CBA.
Joseph Ohungu for Prime Edition.
Thank you.
Focus is on how those who are interested, or those who are in the healthcare value chain, how are they to tap into the diaspora, especially now that government is backing that particular move? Keep it right here. We'll have more details. But for now, quick breather.
Pata the master flare kwenye star 570 hash option ya 4 na ushindi wako tunautangaza the 6th of October. Tucheze, tusaidie, tushinde!
Welcome to the Kenya Deposit Insurance Corporation, or KDIC, a state corporation established under the KDI Act Cap 487C. But who exactly are we? KDIC provides a deposit insurance for customers of member institutions. This means we protect your hard-earned money deposited in banks, giving you peace of mind knowing that your savings are safe. KDIC is also mandated to receive, liquidate, and wind up troubled banks, as well as provide incentives for sound risk management. We are here to protect your bank deposit and, together with other safety net players, ensure a stable financial system. KDIC, safer, stronger together.
Welcome back. Still watching Prime Edition right here on KBC Channel 1. Now the government has allocated 100 million shillings to facilitate the evacuation of Kenyans stranded in Lebanon following escalating tensions in the Middle East. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who appeared before Senate, however, says it will be impossible to evacuate the over 26,000 Kenyans in Lebanon because only a handful of them are registered and notified Kenya's embassy in Kuwait on their current predicament.
With 3 days remaining for the over 26,000 Kenyans residing in Lebanon to register with Kenya's embassy in Kuwait to facilitate their evacuation.
On the issue of Lebanon,
the government says that only a fraction have registered ahead of the 12th October 2024 deadline.
Obviously, evacuating 26,000 is a very massive undertaking. But as a measure, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, through our embassy in Kuwait, was sending out messages so that those who are in distress can register. Even before the war escalated, this was ongoing. And I think we had received almost about 1,500 or so who had registered with the embassy, indicating that they may need support.
Speaking before the Senate, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi said a committee has been set up within the Foreign Affairs Ministry that will work closely with security agencies to coordinate the evacuation exercise that has been facilitated by the Exchequer.
But the government of Kenya has set aside 100 million, and there's a committee in the Foreign Affairs working with the security and other agencies to see how this 100 million can be utilized to assist in the evacuation of Kenyans.
While stating that it will be difficult to evacuate the over 26,000 Kenyans in Beirut, Musalia noted that some have opted to weather the current storm.
The others were quiet. And believe you me, Kenyans, senators, we also had a situation where the Kenyans there, out of their own volition, say they don't want to move. They want to hold out until the situation cools down. So we have that dilemma.
In light of the rapidly worsening circumstances, the ministry has assured that it is dedicated to giving top priority to the protection of all Kenyan citizens living in Lebanon by ensuring they are back home safely. Further, the Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary weighed in on the Mohamed Abduba Dida issue, while the former presidential candidate is currently serving a 7-year sentence in the United States.
Sometimes we have cases where Kenyans are in distress, and can signal the embassy and say they are in distress. There are others who do not speak at all when they are in distress, so you sometimes stumble on information, but maybe it was not volunteered by the person in question. And this is the example of the Dida case.
Mudavadi noting that Dida and his representatives failed to inform the embassy on their undertakings, and the government only found out once he was arrested.
The communication as to his whereabouts or what he was doing, he was silent on this. So it becomes very difficult to be able to keep track.
Dida has since been serving his sentence at the Big Muddy Correctional Center in Illinois since November 18, 2022, after being convicted of stalking and intimidating an identified victim.
It is a very expensive undertaking, and we would be misleading the House if we said that we can take up this role directly. It can be maybe under very special circumstances that an intervention is done.
Abdiaziz Ashim for Prime Edition.
A section of taxi drivers in Mombasa County took to the streets to protest the abduction and killing of their colleague, 35-year-old Victoria Moloki. Drivers led by the chairman of the Coastline Drivers, Lance Marley, urged the online taxi platforms to review their fares. Victoria went missing on Friday the 27th of September after accepting a ride request from passengers traveling from Mombasa to Samburu in Kwale County. 2 days later, her body was discovered abandoned in a thicket within Mai Mahiu, next to a road in Lari, Kiambu County.
Hizi mashida zote zinaletwa kwa sababu ya bei mbovu in the applications. Hizi applications zinapatiana bei kidogo sana, hata si za pikipiki, hata si za tuktuk, lakini tunabeba na gari hizo bei duni, na kwa sababu ya hiyo ndio madereva wanakuwa tempted kuchukua hizi makazi kwenda offline na wanaendelea kuhatarisha maisha yao.
Tunabeba abiria lakini ni kambe umembeba na mkokoteni. Uko na gari ya milioni 2 na unabeba 198 ya Uber. So hapa 198 ya Uber ama Bolt, hii inatupeleka sisi kama slaves. Unapeleka mtu lakini hujisikii kumpeleka, ni kwa sababu hapo imekupeleka. So chenye tunataka kwanza, hii mambo ya kuwa watu adapt kukinapiwa sijui nini, inataka bei ziongezeke za platform zote.
Kwa nini why don't this app take into force? Why don't they take into force to give drivers the required minimum amount a driver requires while he's driving outside? Well, you know, if Victoria was online, if you are speaking today, we could have traced her very easily. Na angeokolewa kwa njia ya urahisi sana. That's why ninasimama hapa na madereva wengine nikisema whatever these guys are doing to us, it's very heinous and we refuse to be abducted.
Oh. May justice be served and may the families of Victoria find peace. Now, civil servants have been challenged to join savings and credit cooperative societies in the country to reap the financial benefits. HenaC's Loan Monitoring and Recovery Section head Nelson Somwe says through the cooperative organization, civil servants can access supportive financial networks such as affordable interest on loans and saving programs. The call was made during the SACCO's Customer Service Week Forum at the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, where the officials were awarded for their support to the SACCO and new members recruited.
If you join HenaC and after 4 months of your straight contribution, you qualify for a loan. And these loans are granted to those of us who are either permanent or basically on contract basis. Loans will be granted on the basis of your contract time. And if the loan is to go beyond the contract period, we ask your guarantors to commit by signing the guarantor's consent form.
We have also a very flexible repayment period because our repayment period runs up to a period of 96 months, which can accommodate very many pay slips and many people are able to access. You can join us, and to join us, you just need to go to HenaC website, go to downloads and download enrollment forms and fill and send to marketing at HenaC.
Hazina has enabled us acquire parcels of land, has enabled us start businesses, has enabled us send our children to school, and various other ventures that come by.
Now, the government has said it will collaborate with industries to create more employment opportunities for youth across the country. Principal Secretary, State Department of Housing and Urban Development, Charles Hinga, also challenged manufacturers to redouble efforts in production output to meet the increasing demand brought about by affordable housing projects. He spoke when he toured the Tononoka Rolling Mill Steel Plant in Dandora, Nairobi County. On his part, Tononoka Group Head of Brand Business Development, David Kioko, said collaboration between the government will boost economic growth of the country. Tononoka Group also donated 15 million shillings to support the Affordable Housing Week, set to run from the 14th to the 18th of October this year.
a concept where the government doesn't have projects, then we get a hit on our production. And that trickles down to so many other parameters. People losing their jobs, drivers not getting their jobs, offloaders not getting their jobs. So when we run on full capacity, then it means that we also help in growing the economy. So the government plays a very critical role in our sector.
We also came here because when we embarked on this program, we said that yes, the delivery of affordable homes to ameliorate our housing challenge is an important goal. But more importantly, we also spoke about perhaps the existential risks that this country faces, which is the unemployment, the high levels of unemployment. And the way to create jobs is to support your manufacturing sector. Imerahisishwa sasa, kuna njia mpya na rahisi ya kucheza avieta. Dial *419# kwenye simu yako na ucheze wakati wowote.
A very good evening to you. Thank you for keeping it Prime Edition. My name is Betty Kiptum. Time for business news. The government is finalizing standards for the rollout of a national addressing system aimed at boosting the uptake of e-commerce. Broadcasting and Telecommunications, that is Edward Kisiangani, says the Kenya Bureau of Standards is developing the guidelines to facilitate last-mile delivery of essential goods like medicine, utilizing Kenya's expansive postal and courier network. The system will introduce a simple, uniform approach to naming, numbering and allocating addresses for streets and properties. Take a look.
The postal sector has undergone rapid transformation, primarily driven by technological innovation and disruption. Globally, the traditional letter post business has significantly contracted, facing competition from instant messaging and digital technologies. In response, the Postal Corporation of Kenya has been reforming its operations to remain competitive and agile in this fast-changing landscape.
We have restructured our human resource structure. We have also restructured our logistics network.
The authority is keen to see the sector achieve continued growth and reach more individuals and businesses with its services. Accordingly, we are undertaking a raft of measures to reorient the post for sustainable growth. We are reviewing the legal framework governing the sector to align it with the current market realities.
Marking 150 years of World Postal Day, PS Kisiangani highlighted that aligning Postal Kenya with market trends and technological advancements through the rollout of an e-commerce strategy, expansion into e-payments, e-government services, in the functioning national addressing system will be a game changer.
You can't do last mile deliveries effectively until the national addressing system is in place. And you can see that we have made progress on the national addressing system, and we are now working on the standards on how we can make sure that we apply standards that are universally accepted.
We are waiting for their concurrence so that we can launch our Posta Pay and the e-payment solution. We want to provide the financial inclusions for all Kenyans, especially in the rural areas. We are going to be there very shortly.
These reforms will integrate courier and postal services into the digital marketplace, utilizing over 500 postal outlets across the country to facilitate e-services and last-mile delivery.
Postal Corporation can situate itself in an advantage position to make sure that it plays a major role in last-mile deliveries. Last-mile deliveries for fertilizer, last-mile deliveries for medicine.
Wairi Mujenga for Prime Edition.
Now, do you know the type of your vehicle airbags? Well, if you do not know and your car was manufactured between 2000 to 2017, you better take your car for a checkup and have the Takata airbags replaced if they are Takata. The Commerce Competition Commission has issued a consumer alert warning that faulty Takata airbags have caused the deaths of 38 people globally, with more than 400 reported injuries. 12 automakers have been affected by the faulty airbag recall, including Toyota, Nissan, Ford, Mazda, Chrysler and Subaru. Take a look. Millions of vehicles sold by nearly a dozen different automakers were recalled in 2014 due to airbag problems that could cause them to explosively overinflate, sending potentially deadly debris towards passengers and drivers. To date, 38 deaths have been reported, with over 400 people sustaining injuries. Players in road safety, consumer protection and automobile manufacturers have been calling on the public to have the Takata airbags checked and replaced for years. Yet, some cars remain on the roads with the deadly airbags in place. The Commerce Competition Commission is warning car owners to confirm that their cars do not have the Takata airbags. According to the 2014 safety recall notice by the United States National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the Takata PSDI-5 inflator propellant may over time create excessive internal pressure, resulting in the rupture of the body of the inflator upon deployment, thereby causing metal fragments to pass through the airbag cushion material and cause serious injury or death to vehicle occupants. The ruptures may occur in some of the inflators after several years of exposure to persistent conditions of high absolute humidity, high temperatures, and high temperature cycling, among other factors. The affected vehicles include models manufactured from 2000 to 2017 by Toyota, Nissan, Honda, Mazda, Ford, Pontiac, Acura, BMW, Chrysler, Infiniti, Subaru, and Dodge. A do not drive warning issued in January 2024 by Toyota warned that more than 50,000 vehicles which still contained recalled Takata airbags could explode and cause serious injuries or death. The advisory named certain Toyota Corolla Matrix and Toyota RAV4 vehicles from the 2003 through 2005 model years as affected, indicating that owners should immediately have the airbag inflators inspected and repaired. Consumers can confirm the recall status of their vehicles using the vehicle identification number on the websites of NHTSA and the manufacturers. Betty Kiptum, Prime Edition. Moving on, legislators have been urged to consider enacting laws that will entrench farmers' rights in the Constitution to protect indigenous crops. Alliance of Biodiversity International lead researcher Carlo Fada says any proposed agriculture amendments should ensure indigenous crops are protected to enhance food sovereignty.
A section of Kenyan farmers filed a petition in the High Court 2 years ago, challenging the Seed and Plant Variety Act 2012 regulations implementation. Part of the Seed Act stipulates that any person found sharing, exchanging, selling, producing and multiplying uncertified seeds is liable to a prison sentence of up to 2 years or a fine of up to 1 million shillings. The Alliance of Biodiversity International and farmers now want the National Parliament to consider revising the Act and enacting laws that are pro-farmers and extend farmers' rights to protect the country's biodiversity.
We have land degradation, we have climate change. And we need to find different ways to produce food and to consume food to make it more sustainable.
Ukiwa unalima unajiwekea mbegu zako, hakuna wakati utahangaika kwenda kutafuta mambegu kule kwa agrovet. Huhitaji pesa yoyote.
Indigenous crops have been earmarked to strengthen the country's food system through access to cheap seeds that can withstand climate change effects.
Hatuwezi uza zile mbegu na hata wanasema hatuwezi peana kama zawadi, ili hali mbegu zingine ambaye tunalima pale zina cultural meaning ama zina zina utamaduni wetu, zinatukumbusha utamaduni wetu.
Players in the agriculture sector say indigenous crops are more nutritious and will reduce the country's health expenditure.
Mboga ziko na muhimu kwa afya zetu, haswa sisi wakina mama wenye bado tunazaa.
Agriculture experts want more funding for the establishment of indigenous seed banks to protect indigenous crops from extinction.
A space we should occupy to preserve our indigenous seeds because they are highly nutritious, they are more diverse, and we are certain that our families will be free from any lifestyle diseases.
They were speaking during the 3rd Indigenous Food and Seed Fair in Kisumu County. Benson Druba reporting for Prime Edition.
And that is the business news this evening. Sports news is coming up. My name is Betty Kiptum. Good night.
From matters commerce, let's delve into the sporting arena, where the National Basketball Association of the United States, NBA, will build 100 basketball courts in schools and communities across the country. This was revealed today by the NBA Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer Mark Taum when he met President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi, where he was accompanied by 5-time NBA champion Derek Fisher and the U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman. The construction of the basketball courts will commence in the next decade in an effort to grow the sport in the country. NBA Africa today launched a multi-year youth basketball development partnership in collaboration with Safaricom Kenya, which targets more than 10,000 youth in Kenya through the junior NBA tournaments, fit clinics, coaching, development and other basketball development programs. The NBA is one of the major professional sports leagues in the United States and Canada and is considered a premier professional basketball league in the world.
They try to get me.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're that interested in,
And then finally, we're announced and we're doing the clinic to
Uganda's Charles Kagim won the elite men individual time trial during the CAC Road Cycling Africa Championship in Eldoret City as Eritrean cyclists dominated the other races to win the 11-kilometer junior women, the junior men and the under-23 women and time titles.
Clocked 41 minutes and 11 seconds to win the elite men's 33.6-kilometer individual time trial, 0.08 seconds ahead of South Africa's Brandon Downs, and 1 minute and 39 seconds ahead of Morocco's Adil El Aboy, who was third. Joseph Kamau was the top-placed Kenyan in 8th position. Paul Lomuria of Uganda ensured that the Ugandan double when he won the under-23 men's race in 1-2 sweep with Lawrence Lorot as South Africa's Joshua Pike finished third. Eritrea's Ephraim Betel won the junior women's 11-kilometer individual time trial after clocking 16 minutes and 40 seconds. Egypt's Ahmed Dawish finished second ahead of Ethiopia's Kiros Kase. Kenya's Sherry Chepkemoi was 9th. Eritrea also dominated the under-23 women individual time trial to take the first 2 positions. Manx Dawit clocked 35 minutes and 4 seconds to beat her compatriot Susanna Fiseha to the second spot. Gebre Zabiher Aregawi of Ethiopia was placed third. Kenya's Grace Wairimo finished 6th. Eritrea's Takle Mariam Kevin won the junior men's 22-kilometer time trial ahead of South Africa's Erasmus Alexander and Eritrea's Ephraim Nahom. South Africans, however, triumphed in the women's 22-kilometer time trial when young Lucy and her compatriot Mulman Pasio Ashley recorded a duo sweep. The mixed relay and the Mama cycling mass races will be held tomorrow.
The national soccer team Harambe Stars held its final training today before the departure to Douala tomorrow for their 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Cameroon. The match is set to be played this Friday and will be televised live on KBC Channel 1 and broadcast across 6 KBC radio stations as of 7 p.m. East African time.
Head coach Engin Firat is expected to name his travelling team tomorrow from the 28-man provisional squad that has been in a 2-week training camp with their sights set on upsetting the host, who are ranked second in the group.
It will be, but I think we are on a level where I think only the details will decide. I don't believe that it will be easy for Cameroon, even if they have no missing player, nothing. So, but this time I'm happy that we have only a few players missing, because before we had, I don't know what happened, how many players was always missing. So this is one of the problems we have in our way to grow, is that I have nearly never the possibility to play with the same team, you know.
Kenya will be out to extend the impressive run in the qualifiers that has seen them bag 4 points out of a possible 6 and sit top of the standings. Kenya will play Cameroon on Friday in Douala, then host the reverse fixture 4 days later in Kampala behind closed doors.
Players, you know, are capable. You saw in the first 2 games we had a lot of players who didn't play before. They came into the squad and they delivered. So this is what now we say, that now we have a strong team that can compete. We know the task ahead. Cameroon, you know, one of the favorites in the group. They're a strong opponent. Everybody know their history with football. But also us, we have 4 points similar to them. So it's a game of 6 points to play for. We are determined, you know, going to start away. All the boys are psyched and prepared, and we believe that we're going to get something positive.
I'm looking forward to hopefully playing a big part in the team and helping the team to get results. I feel like in these games it comes down to whether we blend with each other, and it comes down to a team, as it's a team sport, and I feel like the group is very together and it's a good environment, so hopefully we take that into the game and come out with a positive result.
Meanwhile, the national women's under-17 soccer team, Junior Starlets, wound up their preparations for the upcoming FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup with a 3-1 win over host Dominican Republic. The Junior Starlets are primed to leave an impressive mark at the global stage following adequate preparations home and away. The FIFA Women's Under-17 World Cup is scheduled to kick off from October 16th through to the November 3rd in the Dominican Republic. The full squads for all the 16 teams that will feature at this year's tournament have been confirmed according to the World Football Governing Body FIFA, and will involve 336 players from 16 teams will compete for the prestigious trophy held by Spain. Kenya will open her campaign against England on October 18th before facing North Korea on October 20th, and then wind up her Group C campaign against Mexico on October 24th. Bernard Okumu, Prime Edition.
24,000 runners have so far registered for the 21st edition of the Nairobi Standard Chartered Marathon, scheduled for the 27th of October at Uhuru Gardens, Nairobi. In other news, world 10,000 meter silver medalist Daniel Simiyu Ebenyo is set to make his debut in the marathon running when he features in the Chicago Marathon this weekend.
Organizers, the registration is set to close on the 13th of October once they achieve the targeted mark of 25,000 runners.
Our target was 23,000 runners, but we've increased to 25,000 runners. So far, we've registered 24,000, so we've got about 1,000 spaces. Originally, we planned to close registration by 13th of October. But because of the demand, once we hit the number of 25,000, we will close.
Participants will compete in the 42-kilometer race, the half marathon, 10 kilometers, and the 5-kilometer family fun run. The course of the race will largely remain the same as the organizers strive to make the newly certified World Road Label Race a success.
Our vision is to become a world major, and we've been taking steps towards that. So our race was already certified by AIMS, so the route measurement is certified by AIMS, and by getting into the World Road Race label, we join the global calendar for marathons. What that does is that it gives us visibility to international runners, and it also allows anyone who runs within our race to use the time that they are using in our race to join other races.
Meanwhile, this year's edition has received a total of 172 million shillings in sponsorship.
We have sponsored to a tune of 1.75 million, and mainly we are providing screens to Standard Chartered to use in eternity as they do their marathons, and we'll also be rewarding sports, the key winners.
Just to build long-term relationships with people who believe in causes like this. Standard Chartered have something called Future Makers, which is what which is about empowering different people, from whether it's women, whether it's women in tech, people with disabilities. They have this program called the Future Makers. And for ourselves, this is something we believe in. As Kenyans, we need companies that believe in empowering ourselves.
The winners of the 42-kilometer race will be awarded 2 million shillings, while the victors in the half marathon will walk away with the 300,000 shillings. Elsewhere, 2023 World Championship 10,000-meter silver winner Daniel Ebenyo Simiyu is set to make his debut at this weekend's Chicago Marathon. Ebenyo will jostle for the title in a field that also has former winner and fellow countryman Amos Kipruto. Kipruto returned to London as the favorite last year, but was unable to defend his title, with Kelvin Kiptum securing the crown shortly before his untimely death. Marathon organizers have revealed plans to honor Kiptum's memory, offering each runner a memorial sticker that can be added to the bibs. Bernard Okumu, Prime Edition.
Pata the master flare kwenye star 570 hash option ya 4 na ushindi wako tunautangaza the 6th of October. Tucheze, tusaidie, tushinde!
Good evening. Now we have seen a surge of and other healthcare workers find greener pastures abroad, and this has the backing of government. We're seeing them leaving for the United States, we're seeing them leaving for Europe, and even some to the Middle East. But the big question, if you're interested tonight, how goes the process? Joining us tonight is none other than the MD, Kenya Nurse Consultants Limited. On the far end, that is Mr. Paul Simiyu, flanked by Professor Regina Kallion, CEO, RIMA Inclex UX. Karibu sana. And I'm glad to be hosting your namesakes. I'm Regina too, but yeah. So you're among Reginas. You're in safe hands, Paul there. Now let's start off with Kenyans want, or rather nurses, or rather those in the value chain, the health care value chain, are seeking placements abroad. Statistics are there, but the question is, where do we start? How does it go about? Let's start off with you, Mr. Simiyu.
Yes, it's true. The demand for Kenyan nurses globally is actually on the rise. Each and every developed country or developing country is looking forward to have a cake from the kind of nurses we're producing. When you look around, when you move to the US, the demand for Kenyan nurses is actually high. Europe, especially the United Kingdom where I work, we are so needed. Mm-hmm. When you come to the Middle East, we are also needed in large numbers. Locally, yes, we are needed, but the number of nurses who have been produced locally actually are more than the jobs available. And that is why maybe the young nurses who are unemployed are actually benefiting from the support the government is actually creating for relocation for their relocation to overseas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, on the numbers of those who have trained, in nursing and other healthcare workers, actually it shows that we are understaffed when it comes to nurses, and there's also general concern that with the migration abroad of these healthcare service providers, then we are left, on high demand with less people to take care of us. We'll be handling that, Mr. Simiyu, as you ponder on that. But then, what are the requirements? Other than just being a qualified nurse, what are the requirements, Regina? What are you looking for?
Well, in the United States, we love nurses from Kenya. And if you are a registered nurse in Kenya, you can come to the United States in addition to taking an English exam, as well as our state exam. It's called the NCLEX. And being able to pass both of those exams, and I'm sure Paul can speak to some other issues, but those are really the requirements.
So you have to be a registered nurse here, but then take an English test and the NCLEX exam. Paul, tell us more about those two requirements.
Yes, for the English exam test, we do understand that locally we've been trained in English from primary school to high school. However, those relocation processes require one to actually meet the requirement in terms of being able to pass the international English exams, which are likely to be 4 or 5. The first one is IELTS, which is International English Exam Language Testing System, then TOEFL, OET for nurses or OET for doctors, radiographers, then PTE. Either of those exams, each and every country will have their specifications in terms of their scores, in terms of their duration, and so forth. For example, if you want to go to US, you can sit for the English exam, that is IELTS, and score everything, that is listening, reading, speaking, and writing, at least more than 6.5 out of 9. And if you're to go to UK, the score might be higher. That is why it's safe for a nurse, before they make that decision, they have to understand the specific country specifications in terms of requirements. For example, Asia, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they might not require that English specification. When it comes to nursing exam, for you to practice in any country, you must be licensed.
Yes.
And for you to be licensed, you must sit for that exam. She mentioned about NCLEX, which she does good work in terms of supporting nurses to pass that NCLEX. That is actually an essential tool for those nurses who are going to US, Canada, Australia.
So now, after doing, you know, for you to be actually a registered nurse, you've already gone through the rigors of the training and qualified, you know, to get registered. Now you're saying that we, or other nurses, are expected not to do these English exams. One of them, just to mention, if you're going to be looking to work in the US and the UK and such, are these courses that are also, are we looking at a situation where after you're done, you also have, it's like a bridging, or rather building capacity for you to be able to actually take part, or rather get employment in the US? How can we bridge that gap? How can we have these courses then also incorporated in the nursing programs that we have, since this actually already has government backing?
Regina, that's an idea we are working on with Professor Regina. We do understand the demand is not going to actually stop soon. It's going to be actually at the roof. And that is why we are inviting experts from different countries where nurses are relocating to come back to home, where they can support us. They're looking through the curriculum, supporting nurses who already qualified, maybe they are just newly qualified, on how they can prepare for these exams. These are international exams. It means you can't just pop in that exam room and be able to come out with a pass. You need someone to be able to support you as you've been training, to train towards that direction. Once you've trained and qualified, how do you prepare? Because there are different strategies. For example, myself, a simple English like IELTS, it's just common English, basic English. However, with my degree, I had to resit up to 5 times. I could have avoided that if I secured someone, a team, to support me to understand what are they really looking for. And that's why, as Kenyan nurse consultants, we've gone far and beyond, and we brought one of the best NCLEX trainer locally here to walk around with us, so that we are able to support nurses to be able to prepare, and they pass on their first round. And the
so who else are you partnering with? What I'm asking is, a majority, looking at the cost of learning, you know, even to qualify to be a nurse, is not a walk in the park for a majority who would be willing to get into this noble practice. Are you working on a partnership that will ensure that as the nurse is taking courses, the normal courses to qualify for her registration or his registration, that they can also learn this, you know, either improve their English and such? If we're thinking of, you know, tapping on this particular opportunity and showing up capacity in the diaspora, is this something that we can explore, Regina?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's one of the benefits of having a specific pathway to bring you to the U.S., because I'm here representing my country, but I'm also bringing the technology that we use to improve education. And we are working very much to be able to get into universities and reevaluate the curriculum so that the nurses are prepared for success if they choose to go abroad.
Now, security is another question that comes up whenever, you know, anyone is seeking, you know, greener pastures. then when you're doing consultancy, how are you ensuring that those who are going abroad are actually safe and secure? Because we have cases that have been recorded where people get mistreated, and what they had studied for or qualified for is not the work that they are getting when they land there. How are we ensuring that our nurses get to perform on what they have qualified for? Bwana Simio.
Regina, myself, I'm a registered nurse, trained in Kenya, having practiced in Kenya, having walked the process.
Yes.
And I identify that one challenge that is facing most nurses is lack of information.
Okay.
And that's where people can be easily scammed. They can be easily actually directed in the wrong direction. And it's the reason why Kenya Nurse Consultant Firm is coming up strongly to provide that information so that people have everything at the fingertips. They are able to know the correct information and the incorrect information. And with that, we are able to stop such cases where nurses are actually lured in the wrong direction. We are also partnering with various entities to ensure that we support these nurses to be able to identify such loopholes and be able to be safe throughout the journey. Yes.
Now, let's just take it down. If I'm a nurse, assuming that I am a registered nurse and I'm seeking employment in the diaspora scope, what's the process? Other than just taking these exams, what should I look out for to avoid being duped?
The government is actually putting in place various measures to also support nurses, and one way it has done so is to institute an institution or a government agency that actually is able to relook through the processes in terms of institutions and the process, that is National Employment Authority, where nurses are able actually to counter-check the name of agencies that are actually officially sanctioned by the government. The nurses are also able to actually confirm from the list of jobs that have already been enlisted. So with that, they are able to work with sanctioned entities to actually apply for jobs that have been verified and proved to be actually genuine and available. Because sometimes, if you're on social media, you will come across various kinds of jobs, but they are not actually jobs that are existing. 3, also, nurses also have to be able to actually come out in large numbers and seek information, because information is power. If you are informed, you're likely going to make the correct decision. And that is why we're going around the country to ensure that we are able to sensitize and talk to the nurses to their own comfort homes so that they are able to pick up this information.
Now, what about the culture shock? As we are preparing these nurses, yes, they are qualified, they have done the exams, but then how are we taking them through the culture shock? Because cultures are diverse and such. Are you giving this kind of support to these nurses? Regina.
Absolutely. We understand, even for myself coming here to Kenya, it is different. So we are empowering the nurses to understand American culture. We get paid every 2 weeks in America instead of, I think, here monthly. We speak in different terms. We use time instead of kilometers. And so we are going to prepare the nurses to be successful in their position. We're welcoming them, and we want this to be a great time for them to make the decision to explore opportunities abroad.
Now, Bwana Simio, in terms of when someone actually goes out there and, secures that particular job, how are you assisting them now also come back and reinvest what they're earning? Because this is backed by government to shore up capacity of diaspora remittance and also deal with youth unemployment. How are you coming in this?
Yes, a classical example of such a reinvestment, because myself, when I relocated to UK in 2018, I was actually with nothing. So immediately I arrived, I faced the same culture shock, but I managed to actually stand tall. And I acquired some few resources. And that's when I felt like I need also to have more nurses from home to come also enjoy the fruits. And that is when I created the Kenya Nurse Consultant Company. So as a company, you see, it's providing employment. It's able to support more nurses who are also interested to relocate to different countries. And we are also having groups of nurses and other people in overseas who are interested to relocate back home or who are interested to invest back home. And not only us from Kenya, we also have friends from Caribbean countries, from America, from UK, who feel like Kenya should be their next home. And we are also being the agents of, we are actually advocating for such, in such a way that we are able to tell them how Kenya can be a good country for them when they retire. And soon you're going to see that impact actually being felt on the ground, where people are going to actually use Kenya as their retirement country, as their retirement home. And we look forward to continue to receive government support. And if we have such kind of support, expect lots of reinvestment back home.
Now, let me be the devil's advocate. In May here, we saw a section of critics to this backed plan by government to have nurses seek greener pastures abroad, saying that we need to limit, that government needs to limit the number of nurses who are seeking employment abroad to avoid straining the local healthcare sector. From that particular perspective, what do you think about that particular criticism and call to limit the number of people who are going abroad to seek these jobs?
I'll say that's an outdated opinion. I remember when I was growing up, we were taught this concept of brain drain. I don't think it still applies. Nowadays, it's brain gain. We are too smart to be drained. We are now going there and we are gaining. That is why we are able to send resources. We are sending money every day. We are sending resources, information. We are requesting friends to come from such countries to bring technologies home. So the benefits outweighs the actually perceived challenges or perceived losses that we thought we are incurring when someone relocates from Kenya to either US or UK or Canada. Myself, a classical example, each and every year, I'm sending home more than 40,000 pounds. If I was in Kenya, I could not be saving that. So if we have one person like me, 2 people, 3 people, 100, how much are we sending home? Can that outweigh the perceived negative opinion that when you go to another country, you've run away from home? No, you're going to look so that you bring home. It's just the way we were growing up, that had to go out to bring food.
But it is an investment, so we'd want to know, those who are watching at home would want to know, on an average, how much does it cost to get placement as a nurse abroad? You can give an example in the US, where you're working, and in the UK, maybe. What does it take, like in terms of cost? Like, if you were to make an investment, how much?
Yes, the process is different. For example, if you're looking forward to go to UK, which has gone on a slow mode, actually you need approximately 200,000. And once you arrive, you are able to earn 500,000. If you're looking forward to go to maybe Saudi Arabia, Qatar, close to 150,000. And once you are there, you are able to earn about 300,000. For US, the process might be long and expensive, but the return is also marvelous. For example, if you're looking forward to relocate to US, you're looking for 250,000 to cover the entire process. However, some of parts of the cost will be covered by the employers. Then, once you arrive in the US, you're looking at $1 million per month. Yes.
So, it is, when you say someone cost, it's called a cost analysis.
Yeah, and we have also to be considerate of such. Yeah.
Now, Regina, as we work towards closing this particular conversation, someone who is watching and maybe they have been struggling to get through these exams and such, just give us a rundown on what they should do better. Just free advice. I mean, you're on the national broadcaster. What can you tell those nurses who have tried severally and they have not come through, or rather gotten through this particular exams?
I understand. I would say that nurses in Kenya already have such a great foundation, and there have been many successful passers of the NCLEX already, so don't give up. But also, it is important to look at how our current test plan is. So myself, I've written a curriculum that nurses can study in about 6 months and during their process of coming to the US, and they'll have everything that they need to pass. Content is key. Content, yes.
So this particular curriculum, is it available online? Is it free? Do we pay for it?
It's true, yes. Okay. It is a mixture of physical books, 2 books, and an online training platform where they will find the content of the exam and they will also be able to practice their questions. In the US, we use computer adaptive testing, and that means that every nurse gets an individual exam. No 2 nurses will get the same exam. So it is very important.
Now, before we come to a close, someone has just inboxed us. We had asked this question online, and someone is asking, why do we have to struggle to speak English yet it's not our native language, and we have computers. Bwana Simiu, take that out.
Yes, I've got such questions from different nurses and different colleagues. Why do we sit for English when we've been prepared in English since our primary school? I always say it's their rule, it's their policy that if you are relocating to their country to work, you need to be able to function. And communication is a key element in terms of your functionality as a nurse, because you are going to interact with human beings who are patients. The same applies if you're going to, you coming from US and you're coming here to work in Mama Lucy Hospital, you should have some basic elements of Swahili for you to actually be able to understand that Mama who is sick. So that is their policy. And I look forward to Kenya also coming up with a policy where people who are coming from overseas to come and work, not tourists, of course, because tourists need to come every day, if they are able to be also examined in Swahili.
Yes, so that we can also have a pro quo. You know,
it's a source of revenue for the country, you know that?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, we have been speaking to two panelists this evening, just trying to unpack the process and what is required for you to tap that particular space if you are in the healthcare sector, or rather value chain. On the far end has been Paul Simiu, who is a managing director, Kenyan Nurse Consultants Limited, who said that we need to, you know, build capacity to be able to tap into the diaspora space in terms of healthcare. And Professor Regina, who is the CEO at Rima Inclex US there, saying that there is need to build capacity and work together with those who have already gone before you so that you can be able to get through these particular exams. And I am Regina Manyara, have been your host tonight, assisted by none other than Lady Lucy Mwaura on sign language interpretation. Enjoy your evening. Just remember tomorrow is going to be Mazingira Day, so kindly plant a tree. Have a good night.